Like most men, I grew up keeping score athletically in everything I did, and athletics was definitely a passion for me. I was a ranked tennis player as a junior and was recruited to play high school hockey in Boston. I actually moved away from home when I was about 14 years old, and then subsequently got recruited to play collegiate hockey, and then moved on from there to play professional hockey. We've lived in Chanhassen now for 15 years, and we have 2 children, both in college, and we've been attending Westwood for about 6 years. As far as my faith walk growing up, I went to church. The difference would be I went kicking and screaming. If you were to look at the first 25 years of my life with athletics being really the focal point, you'd see that it was basically the me show. The accolades were all about me. Everything focused and centered around me. When I first moved here 27 years ago and retired from hockey, I was still all about keeping score. And I just did it differently. It was in the business world, and it was all about making money. I met Sarah around that stage of my life, and as we started to compare notes about our upbringings, we quickly learned that we were brought up in very similar fashions by loving parents. We had great siblings. Yet the biggest difference in our lives was she had a blueprint for her direction in life, and it was the Bible, and I didn't.
I was blessed by being able to grow up in a Christian family, and was taught from a very young age that everything that we had, God had given us. It was all a gift from God, and that we were responsible for these things that He had given us. And as I grew, I always had a heart for God, but started going my own way. I think as a teenager and as a college student, I wasn't being as faithful as I could have been. At the beginning of our marriage, it was really fun to see Mark grow in his faith and to learn, and to see the peace that he was getting from his newfound relationship with the Lord.
I started to study the Bible and started to do some research, and found books like Don Byerly's Surprised by Faith and Patrick Morley's Man in the Mirror. And it's interesting that the Lord intervened in my life at a very instructive time with this confluence of Christian men and people where it was safe for me to ask questions and get the answers to my concerns and issues. And that's really when I started to commit my life more to the Lord. It's a bit ironic that the Lord would use money to wake me up. The phone rang from the church we were currently attending, and they asked me to run the annual stewardship campaign. And I immediately said yes, and hung up and went to Sarah and said, they've asked me to run this stewardship campaign, not even knowing what stewardship was. I literally didn't know what the word meant. I'd heard it before, didn't understand it. So I went to the dictionary and I went to the Bible and started to study what the Lord's intent was for money and stewardship. And it was quite interesting because as I was tasked to speak in front of the church on a weekly basis about stewardship and giving, and the understanding that I now had learned that it really wasn't my money, it was the Lord's money and the material items that He had entrusted me with, that I was only a steward over them. As I spoke to the church, as much as I wanted to think there were 1,000 people listening, the person listening the most was me. Like many people in the United States right now, there's some uncertainty in our lives. I've just taken a new job, and we prayerfully considered this move. And by no means was it easy, and we don't anticipate it's going to be easy going forward from a financial perspective. But we are trusting that the Lord has a plan for us, and we are moving forward together as a family.
And I've come full circle. I totally trust God and feel like we should give to our full extent. The excitement in that for us is watching what God will do in and through us.
It's interesting to think of where I am today with my faith walk, and I'm still intensely competitive. I think it's hard wiring, and it's hard to get away from. And I still keep score. Yet the measurement of score is significantly different, and it's now measured by the peace in my life that the Lord gives me from having an active relationship with Him.